maybe you can explain in the chat why she's not able to join. But technology it was not my calling. We working on that, but it wasn't my calling. So I'm striving to get better at it and understand it a little bit more. But unfortunately, yeah. So while we figure that, there she is. Okay. So now, Sister Michelle, ready or not prepares. Yes, there she is. Praise be to Allah. Okay, there we go. Let's see if she can come in.
I came, I came in on you, sis, saying
Oh,
how technology is not your forte.
sis.
And I tell you, I'm just almost, I can't,
Oh, Allah. No,
I can't.
I understand since you already know and since we on the struggle bus, but we not gonna stay there. We gonna get better at it. But I'm telling you right now, I need remedial classes for technology because thank y'all for being patient with us first of all, because we were a little tardy due to technical difficulties, but guess what? Y'all still came in deep. Make sure you go ahead and add your friends, invite them in. Make sure you follow us if you're not already following us. But we about to get into a real deep topic. I'm super excited. I'm so amped because this topic is something that has to take place, must take place in order for us to get into the mindset of the time and what must be done. I was just kind of hitting on that before you came in, Sister Michelle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. So do you wanna go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, okay. After the cool down,
It's gonna be okay. Kumbaya.
I am Michelle. Peace to everyone. And I'm still trying to set up. So I'm sorry. I'm Michelle, and I am the owner of Ready or Not Prepares. And Ready or Not Prepares is a disaster preparedness company with a twist. I think many of our disaster preparedness companies have just traditionally are about, survival in the sense of something apocalyptic.
Right.
And that comes, that's a part of it. But I think there's a lot that goes on before that. There's a lot that goes on in our everyday lives, in politics, in, weather and climate, that we can do things with careful planning and strategy to be prepared. And that's what preparedness is. And that's the angle that I come from. That preparedness is putting your plans in place and then taking those plans with a strategy so that you can confront whatever issues or incidentals that take place proactively. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's kind of my niche for it. Again, this is, you hear about survivalists, you hear about SHTF, which is when stuff hits the fan. There's another word for it. Um, and I mean, that's very real, and a lot of people kind of see that maybe coming down the pipe. We do see things coming closer to being in dire straits. But again, before that, we can put things in our lives to be prepared.
I completely agree. Thank you so much. And thank you again for allowing us to have this connection and this conversation. For those of you who may not know who I am Sister Portia, the owner of Grow Flow, where we educate and empower people to grow their own food. No matter how much space you have, we want you to know that you have the ability, you have the power, and you will grow food. But it starts first with the mindset. So if you believe that you can grow food, if you have that, you know, start into the feeling of being a master and becoming a master over your environment and over your surroundings, your household, your outside, everywhere, then you will manifest whatever you want to. All you have to say is be, and it is.
Correct.
So we take pride in that. We have products also we can get into later that we sell dealing with gardening, but we offer gardening basics classes, which will be coming up very soon for the spring. We're really excited about that, where we teach people. So for those of you who feel like you have a purple, pink, or red thumb and not a green thumb, and you've just killed everything, including weeds, okay, it's hard to kill weeds. So if you've killed weeds, we gonna work with you. Just like I need work with technology, we gonna work with you with gardening. So it doesn't matter what color thumb you feel like you have. The gardening basics class is for those people who need the basics, the very beginning of learning how to just grow food, how to start somewhere. So that's exactly what we do. That's what we specialize in. And we also take pride in educating. We are constantly educating and creating engaging content to help people with the edutainment. So it's like we're educating you, but we're entertaining you at the same time because, you know, sometimes we like to have a little fun. So I like to combine the two. So that's what Grow Flow is all about. We want everybody to be capable, whether you stay in an apartment or wherever it is, you still be able to grow something to feed food for you and your family. Excuse me, not feed food, but feed you and your family. So yes, that's what we do. And thank you again for joining us on this live.
Thank you. Well, we want to get it started because we have a lot to get over to everybody. And I hope that people kind of crossed over from Facebook.
Right.
Again, apologies for that. And I guess the first thing that when we get started is why and how are we collaborating gardening and preparedness? Like, does that even have anything to do with one another? And I would absolutely say yes.
Yes.
And that's why, you know, we're not doing this in any type of interview type format. Done that before, but this is more of a collaboration because in nature and just generally gardening and preparedness go hand in hand, especially in the time and hour that we find ourselves now. um when you look at the news on your day to day, let's just go over some of the things that require preparedness and food or food supply, right? So we've gone through being sheltered in. That's a reality for many people. We know what that feels like, what that looks like now. And we know what we experienced in the grocery stores. So we're coming into a very real kind of time in terms of preparedness. And again, I want to say preparedness being planning and strategy. So when you're unable to leave the house for whatever condition, whatever disaster, food shortages, again, which we've experienced and are seeing levels of that now.
Right.
You have bioengineering, right? You have no idea who's growing your food, where they're growing your food, what they're putting in it, what chemicals. They're in labs now growing your food. Like, do you want that? I don't think so. So you have to prepare for something different for your own reality and for the reality of your family. And then the economy. Like, who's been to the grocery store lately?
Okay.
You understand? I just spoke to my mother this morning, and my mother, she's in the South, and she said, "Michelle, I went to the grocery store to get some oxtails." She said, "Do you know how much the oxtails were?" I was like, "How much?" $30.
Wow, that is crazy.
So inflation is here, and honestly, if you keep your nose to the grind and see what's going on around you, many are saying inflation can turn into a recession. That's a whole nother thing. So what do we do? Because I just named those disasters or emergencies that correlate with food,
Right.
right? Going to the grocery store, bioengineering, being stuck in the house. So what is the alternative when you don't have food in those circumstances?
The
You have to
alternative, yes, you have to grow your own food. Absolutely.
have to. Like it's we got pressure now. Like you have to do it. Absolutely.
Before it was, you know, you could call it a hobby, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, but now it's definitely a necessity, right? So it has to become something that we are adopting as, like Brother Daniel said, is not an overnight process.
Right.
Yeah, it's great to have a desire to grow food, but it requires some planning. And so within that planning, you have to get knowledge of what you're doing exactly, because you can have all the materials in the world, all the seeds in the world, and you may not know exactly what to do with it. So getting that knowledge and taking it seriously where it becomes a lifestyle, because we laughed at like Little House on the Prairie or those homesteaders. They solely depend on their backyard or their farm or whatever it is, and you may not have laughed. I actually enjoy watching it. But now it's like you can't even watch it for entertainment. Like we're studying this stuff because this is our reality. This is
You
what
better,
we're entering.
you better study. Absolutely. And
Okay.
what you know what it was, and we didn't even know it. It was preparedness.
Yes.
You know, they
Absolutely.
look at it. They're teaching you. They're doing little things here and there and what have you.
Right.
Preparedness.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
I think people are really adverse to that. Again, they think it's apocalyptic, and they're just like, she's on the end of the world. No, I'm on the now.
Okay.
I'm on the
Right. And you know what was it's not funny, but it's kind of funny. Back in the day when I was a middle school teacher, I was passing out disaster preparedness, the survival kit list to like my coworkers.
and people
Because
look
and that was
like
like back in what 2008, 2009, and they were calling me an extremist, like literally saying she is an extremist.
I,
And
I wear the label of a doomsday. What do they call me? Doomsday something. Call me a
yes.
doomsday.
Exactly. And so, I mean, even back then I was serious, like, okay, y'all can call me all you want, what you want, but I already know what time it is. And that was like, what, 10 years ago. So
Correct.
now that it's a reality for real, it's just like the things that back then where that's where you start preparing and planning where things are in surplus and nothing is out of stock. Now it's like things are getting gone. People they're wiping them off the shelves. So we can't go and change the past, but the reality is, if there are several resources and several companies and several places where we can still get this stuff, and it doesn't mean go out and just gouge and just like buy out the whole warehouse. That's not necessary.
Well, that brings us to one of the things that we did want to, kind of go over as a reality of what does it take to prepare yourself in terms of gardening for survival. And
Right.
that once you have the concept of preparedness,
Right.
now you want to move out and actually, start putting things in place. And I think a lot of people to support should think that gardening is just beyond their reach, or someone told me that they think it's hard. And I garden. I'm not you. I'm going to attend your class. You know what I mean? I'm going to
Praise
get
be to Allah.
from you, but I dibble and dabble with a little bit here and there in the garden. So I won't say that it's easy. I won't attest to it necessarily being hard, because I think there are levels to this.
Right.
But what I will attest to is that it's doable. And
Exactly.
doable because it's really becoming necessary.
Yes,
And we
ma'am.
want to get that, I think, on my part, just in terms of preparedness, and your part, just in terms of gardening, to kind of get across to you what things you have to consider and what things you can put in place to make a survival garden your reality, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think you brought up one of the great, I guess the first points is maybe the seeds,
Right.
right? And I think that's interesting to talk about, because it's not as easy as just buying seeds in the store, going to Home Depot, going to wherever they sell them. I think
Right.
there are levels to this as well, and
Exactly.
maybe you can kind of elaborate on just the selection of seeds. Like where do you start?
Absolutely. I mean, there, like you said, there's several stores that big name stores out there that carry so-called, organic or non-GMO seeds. But you got to be careful with that, because these big name companies jump on the trend. What is in now? What are people big on right now? And what they're going to spend money on, because it is like the commercial of what's taking place and what everybody sees. So you
Right.
have to be careful with the whole organic and non-GMO. Open
Right.
pollinated, heirloom, or organic is good. I won't say it's not good, but you have companies out there that are reputable, that have morality, and have, they really take a stand and make sure that they believe in something, so that they're not just selling just any type of seeds. One of
Right.
them, like Kristen said, is definitely melanated organic seeds. She sells organic heirloom seeds.
Right.
Another great one is Baker's Creek. Fedco. I was on another live, and a sister said that Fedco is another great one. One thing you have to make sure you pay attention to with these companies is, if you are ever interested in saving your seeds, if you're interested in saving your seeds, that's where the technicality comes in, because
Open
the seeds that
pollination.
you get from a regular store like Home Depot or Walmart, those are patent seeds. So you can't
Right.
save those seeds. It's against the law. It's a felony. But we do have solutions. We do have options out there where you can get high quality seeds. You can get seeds that you can save, and you won't be ended up in behind bars. And they're amazing. I can definitely create a list of several of the companies that I've already suggested, and ones that are also on the list. But there's so many options. One thing that I do recommend is looking at the history of that company, because a lot of those like smaller family owned type companies that sell seeds are also great. They're great in quality, and you're going to get the best quality because it is a small business, right? It's a small business. So delving into that, like you said, we can go on a whole nother topic when it comes to just seeds, but making sure that you want the heirloom, you want the open pollinated, you want to try to make sure it's organic, but the right type of organic. Like the sister said, sometimes they just slap organic on the label just so you can buy it, and they hike the price up.
Well, can you just really briefly, because we'll let everybody know we're our plan was 30 minutes, and we probably at this point need to just complimentarily just
Yes.
45 because
Right.
of the early start, the late start. But can you unpack? You used a few terms, and for preparedness, I think it's important that people kind when you talk about seeds, uh,
Right.
again, and not just going to whatever store. You use the term heirloom, and you use the term open pollination.
Right. Right.
So what is that, and why is that important to people when they go out? Because it's important for preparedness. Like, it's
Right.
important down the road when you
Right.
are in, again, dire straits, or in a situation where you can't get to the store,
Right.
uh, can't get to Home Depot, and you're sitting here. And let me just say this one thing: you're sitting at home, and you're like, in preparedness, they said garden. I should, start my own garden, which you very well should.
Right.
Then you're sitting there and you don't have seeds.
Right.
So
Right.
there, that you can put in place in preparedness to prepare and strategize right now.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the terms you use, which is open pollination. Um, and that has a lot to do, and I'll let you again elaborate. That has a lot to do with even how you position your plants in the garden,
Yes.
but also said something about heirloom seeds. Could you kind of expound on that slightly?
Yes, absolutely. So open pollinated just means that the flowers. So once you plant your seed, the plant gets a certain height, and then it starts producing your flowers. And right after your flowers comes the fruit. Well, when you have those flowers are fertilized by your pollinators, like your butterflies and your bees and all of those different things. Your wind, even wind and rain can pollinate, right?
Or
And
you can self pollinate, right?
right, exactly, exactly. And so when this happens, the seed actually can form and produce the same exact, like I would say, like child or generation after that as the
Correct.
parent. So you're going to
Correct.
get the same plant, the same exact plant genetically, on a cellular level as the parent plant. All right. A lot of times when you get seeds, and your plant may produce seeds and you save the seeds, sometimes if it's not an open pollinator heirloom, you may get a different variety, like a hybrid. You might get a different variety. So you may have an apple tree, and that apple tree may have produced a gala one year, but it may produce a different variety the next year because it was not heirloom or open
Message,
pollinated.
message. So what she said, it is what you look for when you go. At this point, when you can go and get your seeds, is heirloom.
Right.
That's the importance of the heirloom, because you get what you put in, you get out. Yeah,
Exactly.
what you plant,
Exactly.
grow. What you
And
plant.
it's the consistency, and that's important, especially if you were planning on, growing zucchini or, growing a certain variety of tomato. You want that same tomato every year. You don't want to guess it and just, it's like a gamble of, oh, okay, what type of tomato is going to grow this year? You know what I'm saying? So it really takes the guesswork out of it when you get those open pollinated heirloom seeds, because it is pretty much a guarantee that you're going to get the same exact plant the next year and the following years to come. And thank y'all for your questions. Thank you for joining the live. First of all, if you haven't already followed us, if you can hit that drop down arrow to follow us. But those are some amazing questions in the chat. We will get to those in a few minutes. If you could actually, from this time this time in future, could you please put the questions in the question bubble down at the bottom on the right hand side? For those of you who've already put questions in the chat, that's fine. But if you could, from now on, if you can put them in the question bubble, and we will get to those in a few minutes.
I think so. These are terms general terms for gardening, but these are terms, and that's why we're collaborating, that you need to know for preparedness when you garden. There's some very important technicalities. So one of the other things that you mentioned is, well, I don't know if you mentioned it, but a part of that that's important is saving seeds.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't think it's as easy as some think. What do you suggest about, because again, when we're looking at a preparedness situation, again, famine, or you're pushed to go to your garden, where can we get these seeds? One other thing, because I do want people to understand.
Right. So
I have to say this one thing. In China presently, the world is looking at China because China is stockpiling grains, they're stockpiling vegetables, they're stockpiling seeds.
Right.
And so that means it's going to be scarcity at some point. That means someone is preparing or planning and strategizing that you won't be able to get seeds.
Okay.
At some point. So if we know this, what do we strategize on and put in place? What does that method look like? How do we save these seeds?
If you have not already started buying seeds, start today. The reason why I say that is because, just like you said, Sister Michelle, these countries, they usually move a little bit faster than United States. So what we do in the United States is we look at what's going on outside of our land and our area, and that's an example of what can happen at our doorstep. So if these countries are already, trying to save seeds and save food and all that, then what is that telling us that we should be doing? So the first thing is, if you have not started purchasing seeds, please start purchasing right now, okay? And it's because, like, once these big name stores, because when people start getting the word out and people start getting those seeds, they're gonna start buying seeds like they did toilet paper at Sam's. It's gonna be gone, and those shelves are gonna be bare. You do not want to be in a situation that a lot of people were when they were in lines waiting to get toilet paper, waiting to get all of these necessities in your household. You want to get your seeds now, because once those are wiped out, then the smaller businesses are going to start getting hit. All right. So the ones that we're familiar with, right, they're going to get sold out quickly because they may not have as a big supply as the bigger names, right?
Teach on preparedness, sis. Teach on.
So that's why I say, and I say this all the time, planning is a necessity. You have to plan in order for you to be successful in disaster preparedness, in order for you to be successful in gardening. You have to have a game plan. You have
Right.
to write something out. You have to have something that you can like visually see so that you know this is what I need to do. And it's not something that you has to happen like overnight, like, oh, I got to get all this stuff today. No, it takes time, but you ain't got that much time. Okay, we in the moment now that, you know, time is ticking. Time is ticking. So
Absolutely.
like before, you may have maybe, you know, getting things maybe once a month or every 2 weeks was good. Now, you know, you might have to be getting them a little more often, but just know as long as you start somewhere, that's what makes sense, and that's what's important.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to get over to people with this collaboration, that, you know, once upon a time, like you said, I think you said this earlier, it's a beautiful thing to have a hobby like gardening, like, you
Right.
know, calming, and you're in the earth. Time out for that right now.
Right.
We'll get to that again. But right now, it's necessary, especially for our community. Our
Yes.
community in most disasters or emergencies are the ones, or is the one that gets hit.
Yes, ma'am.
Because, and I say this so respectfully and lovingly, that's because, and I'm a little old school, so I'm gonna bring up a story from back in the day, and maybe some of y'all can relate or not. But that's the grasshopper and the ant story.
Yes,
While
ma'am.
the ant was like storing its food, the grasshopper was out there playing. He was just doing the dances and dancing
Hopping
on,
around.
hopping around, and you know, it's summer, and he's flying here, and he's making TikTok dances and what have you,
Right.
while every other culture around you is doing something like stockpiling and preparing and strategizing
Yep.
on what they're going to do in when there's a lack of.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So that's the mindset that we're trying to get across. And again, specifically as it relates to food, we're trying, and that's why we're talking about the gardening aspect, right?
Right. Right.
We have to get that information.
And you know, one thing that I hit on before in another live, but just the whole point of gardening with a purpose. Gardening with a purpose. When you know that it's certain things that you have to grow and need to grow in order to have food for the wintertime, then
Right.
you're not just gonna be growing like a whole bunch of just flowers and, you know, some basil. No, you're gonna first of all work on focusing on what do we like to eat. What do we eat? That's the first step. What do we eat in this house? And it's
Right.
great that you said that because I was going to hit on how nature teaches us so many lessons. And one thing in nature, like you said with the ant teaches us self-sufficiency because the ant don't wait for nobody. Not only do they teach us self-sufficiency, but they teach us unity.
They
All
get it
right,
done. Right.
they get it done. They don't have time to play around. When you see those ants in those ant farms, it may be a nuisance to us, but honey, let me tell you, that's a whole empire. They're taking care of their business to make sure that they won't for nothing. And they're not waiting for no mystery God. They're not waiting for the grasshopper or the beetle or the roach to come and bring them some food. They are making sure that they take care of the house first. And that's what we have to get in that mindset of
The mind.
self-sufficiency and unity, because a lot of times we think that we're in a comfortable state because we feel like, first of all, we can be slightly spoiled as a people, and we feel like, you know, oh well, if I need something, I can just get a handout. You know, they'll provide something for me, or this will be available. That those days are over with. Self sufficiency is the name of the day. Is the game.
Self-sufficiency, you
Yes.
said. Unity, you said, and I'll add one to that as well, and that's self-reliance,
Yes.
right? And self-reliance being, as a community, as a people, we stop looking to somebody else, government. Yes, somebody is going
Right.
to, this disaster happens, somebody is going to help me. First of all, let's go back to China.
Right.
China, as I just stated, is stockpiling.
Right.
Russia has already stockpiled. Right now, you know, the Biden administration has sent troops over to Ukraine.
Right.
And now Biden is tinkering and looking into laws and what have you to figure out how he's going to put sanctions on Russia to kind of cut off their food supply, cut off their ability to make money from oil, etc.
Right.
Russia is like, fine. But you know what? Interesting about Russia from a preparedness point of view. Russia said, we've been preparing for this.
Okay. Checkmate.
Easy as that. And so I say that to say we have to get out of the habit of kind of waiting for, like you said, a mystery God. You know, not even God. We're waiting for the government because they're going to come in our community. They usually don't get to us first.
Yes.
That's just straight words. And so if that's the case, when do we now, in terms of self-reliance, come together in unity, as you suggested, and be self-sufficient enough to have something in place?
Exactly.
Because set up your garden, and even we can even talk about community gardens to some extent. That's something else we probably need to talk about.
Right.
In one of our chats. But if we could come together and create our gardens, we can at least come together to barter.
Right. Right.
So like I'm really good at growing broccoli, but squash is not my thing.
Right.
You know, but I can say to you, hey, Sister Portia, I have broccoli. Can I get some squash? So we start creating this kind of unity of community that when the situation gets heavy, like you know, our grandparents did in the past, I can knock, and we can you know, try to figure it out. And as a community, we don't starve.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that, you know what, that is being prepared on a, I would say, defense side of things, because if you're prepared, your household got everything y'all need, and then everybody else around you, it hasn't been preparing. Even when it comes to like just even your family members who you've been, you know, maybe bragging to about, oh, I got this and got that. What house do you think they coming to when
Correct.
they run out of whatever they need?
Let me say this. This has already been stated. You're not coming to mind. My stuff is being grown in this, that. No, you don't.
Okay.
Strategize for that too.
Yes.
Sorry, I've given you all that I can so that we help each other. All it takes is a mentality and just action.
It's applying the application. You know, it's one thing to know the stuff, but if you're not applying it and adapting it into your life, what good is it? It's dead. It's like faith without works is dead. You can have all the faith in the world, but you're not putting any type of work in. You're not, you know, actually putting some foot to the ground and getting stuff done, then it's for no, right? And one good point that Mrs. BCT to you, I want to kind of engage with the chat. She says, also coming together, like we said, with others, because more is better for everyone. Start for your own, of course, but also connect with others around you. Exactly. Get to know your neighbors. Get to know the people. If you're in an apartment above you and below you, get to know your community, because we have to all come together, and then you'll get to know who's like-minded and who's trying to, you know, on the same page as you, or who's on the same wavelength, and y'all can start working together, and you don't have to, the burden doesn't have to be all on your shoulders, right? Or all on your household shoulders. We can lighten the burden and work together, come together, and get things done. And it's like, it works so much quicker, and it's more fluid when you have more people that are in a community, that are in a group, and they're actually getting things done together.
And I would say, even going outside of that kind of structure, if you find like-minded people, you know, right now, people in many urban landscapes are creating their own community gardens. Like, if you just find a space, if you get together and collaborate on, maybe here's some land here, let's go, let's set it up, because that means I can defend it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have to defend my own at some point.
Absolutely.
But if we do it in unity, then we can defend it.
Exactly.
You know, you take Mondays and Tuesdays, I take Wednesdays and Thursdays, and et cetera, because we all have a stake in it. And it's
Right.
keeping our community functional when we go through these dire straits. So,
Exactly. And like the minister said, our unity is like an atomic bomb. You can have one
right,
finger, and that one finger may be able to do a little bit, but when you have all these fingers coming together with like a fist, oh, it's
right,
nothing that we cannot accomplish. There's nothing that we cannot get done.
right,
Mrs. BC2U also says we lack in working together how we used to, because they programmed us to be dependent on them. So we have to beg them for everything. We have to get out that and unify together. Absolutely, sis. That is absolutely on point. That's absolutely on point. But
yeah,
going back to survival preparedness and how it falls in line with gardening, like I said before, making sure you are gardening with a purpose, understanding that you know what your family eats. Not only that, but how much does your family eat in a week, in a month?
right,
Because what's going to happen is we're going to have to start planning out how much rationing out how much we actually will be able to eat based on how much food is available, or based on how much our garden is producing. We may not be able to eat as much as we're used to eating. So the fact of the matter is, we have to be realistic. We have to start preparing our stomachs, our mind and our stomachs, to understand that this is not like it used to be, where we can just go and just eat a snack and eat all day. No, we can't do that anymore, right? We
right,
might have to only
right,
be able to eat 1 meal a day, or others may eat 2 meals, till 2 meals a day versus 3 or 4 meals a day. It may just be that point, because guess what? It can come to life or death when somebody in your household or in your surrounding area is not disciplined when it comes to the amount of food that we can eat now versus what we're used to eating. People will kill over that. If they're not in the mindset and haven't been preparing themselves, and they trying to eat and get some food, that can be life or death. And it may sound a little extreme, but I'm telling you, it can be life or death when somebody just does not have the discipline of maybe fasting. Okay, so that's another thing that we have to get into the picture of fasting and prepping our stomachs. Kay Brina says, yes, absolutely necessary.
yeah, exactly, Kay Brina. Because here's the thing: it's conditioning.
Mm,
It's conditioning is another form or element of preparedness, because conditioning allows you to build up the strength, the muscle tissue, if you would, for what you will have to do given a circumstance,
right,
uh, unforeseen for circumstance. Because what happens when you start getting into these diet straits, as we saw with the toilet tissue, you start to panic. Your adrenaline is going, and your rationale is not as sharp
sharp,
as it would be otherwise.
exactly.
And so if we take this period now of conditioning, learning how to garden,
Mm, yes,
don't
ma'am.
wait till you have to, and then you go and try to stick a seed, in the ground, and then you'll say, man, Sister Portia, Sister Michelle did not tell me it takes 52 days
Okay.
to grow an average seed. So
Yes.
you're watering and watering. Had you taken her course, had you come to my website or what have you, we would let you know that, again, there are levels to this. And so that's one of the things that we do want to kind of briefly go over,
Right.
because there are certain plants, I'm sorry, vegetables that you can grow. There are certain vegetables that you should, keep your mind attuned to, that should be grown when it comes to a kind of stressful situation when you have to grow it.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Hold on, let me get a drink of water. I'm getting a little coffee.
I think I'm going to follow suit. What are some natural ways to remove insects from? Well, we're going to get to the questions later, right? Shortly,
Absolutely.
shortly, actually, yeah.
Ooh, I'm coughing. Okay. Getting a coughing spell. So y'all
Okay.
be bear with me. I get a coughing spell and I can't stop coughing. So anyway, first thing is, once you have decided how much food your family eats, then you need to decide what seeds you need to buy or collect.
Correct.
and create a seed bank. And you
Correct.
can save seeds. Now, you can save seeds from produce. Now, I know it is against the law to save certain seeds that you buy from these big name stores. But I have done this too. Like, you can get seeds from the, like, let's say you buy a butternut squash from the store. You cooking it for dinner tonight. You can, I've taught my students how to save those seeds, how to prepare them, how to dry them out, because I mean, that's an easy, practical way to get you some seeds. But once you get those seeds bought and saved, then it's time for you to start getting your garden and getting it prepared so that you can start growing your food.
Right.
One thing that I've discussed in the past is that you want to focus on things that grow very quickly. So, for instance, you have things that can grow in like about 4 to 6 weeks. I know that doesn't sound quick to some, you know, like going to get a snack right now because we're a microwave type generation. But you want to grow things like your lettuce, your spinach, you know, yes, like your strawberries. All of those things, they grow very, very quickly. Strawberries grow a little, it takes a little bit more time for strawberries to grow.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
lettuces, Swiss chard, a lot of your leafy greens take little to no time for you to actually get some harvest from to eat, right?
Right.
Focusing on that. And then focus.
Can I add to that? Can I add, just in terms of my own experience, green beans
Yes.
grow, and I guess I'm talking more easier than necessarily faster, but green beans.
They grow, yeah, they grow pretty fast. I would say green beans could take probably, I would say maybe 45 to 60 days for you to start seeing something.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. Well, let me add to this. There are some that are faster to grow.
Right.
And then there's some that you can grow that gives you abundance. I'll say that.
Exactly.
So you might have to kind of take the wait, but once it's time to harvest, like zucchini or
yes,
green peppers,
strawberry, exactly.
Then you're going to get it in abundance, and then we can move into talking about storage, because then you can store it. So there are some foods like beans, like I'm talking about green beans, like
right,
keep coming. You pick them, it keeps coming.
Exactly.
Some of your herbs,
yes, definitely.
Yeah, like basil. It's the gift that keeps giving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of the herbs are like that, where it's like a cut and come back. Like when you cut, it actually triggers the plant to produce more. The more that you harvest and the more that you cut from it. Another thing that you can do with in the realm of growing crops that don't take a long time to grow is succession planting. And succession planting is just where you may plant some lettuce seeds 1 week, and then the next 2 weeks you plant another set of lettuce seeds. So right. As you are harvesting the first set, you have another set that's coming in and growing, so you can have food growing the entire season versus it just coming for a particular time and then it's done for the season.
Right.
That's another option. Also, when you're talking about growing with a purpose, you want to plan on growing things, possibly depending on what your household eats, that have a long storage life. Okay? Because you want to be able to stock this stuff up so that in the winter time where you don't really have an option unless you have a greenhouse, which a lot of us do not, then you're going to have some food. If the stores are low, you're going to have some food for the winter time. So you want to focus on things that have a long storage life or a good storage life, versus such as your butternut squashes. A lot of your squashes, butternut squash, your winter squash, potatoes. I know maybe some of us may not eat potatoes on a regular now, but potatoes is excellent for survival, not only because it fills you up, it's a carb, gives you energy. But
you can any kind of way you can make flour, you can name it. Yeah,
absolutely. And it has a really good storage life. Carrots has a really good storage life. And then when you get into like your garlic and your onions, if you store them properly, they can last for a few months. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, a lot of our winters are only what, maybe 3 or 4 months,
Right.
possibly. So if you can grow enough food in the spring and the summer coming up, where you are growing on purpose, and you know that, okay, we eat spaghetti squash, spaghetti squash. Me and my family love spaghetti squash, and it really, one spaghetti squash, it feeds a family of 4 for us, and we have leftovers. So you want to grow things that you know can comes in abundance. It can feed you in one setting. So instead of us pulling from like our cans that we might have canned some things and we have it in our cabinets, we don't have to pull from that, because this
Right.
one spaghetti squash is feeding us tonight. So now we can save the other things and keep it for the next day. These are the
Right.
things that we need to focus on. Yes, Sister Colette, that canning, absolutely. Of what has a good storage life, what can grow in a good, maybe get a quick harvest from it, such as your leafy greens, and then what can well. So these are things that we're focused on when we're talking about growing on purpose, because this
Right.
is what's going to last us for the coming months, that we're going to need the food that's not really in abundance. Dehydration, absolutely, things that can be dehydrated, which is a lot of stuff, right? So this is what I mean when I say planning it out, prepping,
Right.
like you said, Sister Michelle, making
Right.
sure that we take the time to write this stuff out, get a clear vision of this is what we eat. So these are the seeds I need to buy. This is what I know has a long shelf life that can last in my basement or my, wherever you store your stuff for a few months. So these are the things I need to grow that are going to last my family, and we will be good, right? And that's just like, just a little, just a tip of the iceberg of how you can start setting you and your family up to grow on purpose.
Right. 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 Yeah, and I think also wanted to add forethought for prepping as you go into climate change. I think someone mentioned you also can consider hoop houses, right? And building
Mm-hmm.
hoop house, and you can go large, you can go small, or what have you. Again, when you get into dire straits, that is something to really kind of think about investing in,
Right.
because you want to maybe try to get through some months. I know Sister Portia, one of the things that I remember about Sister Portia when I first communicated with her is that she said, I can teach you how to grow in-house, in a car, out of a bag, you know,
Okay.
etc. So I mean, those are possibilities too in terms of preparedness, is growing your food in your house.
Yes.
But before you get to that, maybe a hoop house, you can consider that as well.
It absolutely. And even if, like, they call the hoop house the poor man's greenhouse, but even if you can't afford the poor man's greenhouse, you might can only afford a few row covers. And that's like this a lower version, a smaller version of a hoop house.
Right.
Whatever it takes, whatever it takes. You may not have no land. So a hoop house, a greenhouse, a pop house, whatever, it may not be an option for you. But guess what? You better grow some food on that balcony. I can
Right.
teach you how to grow some food on that balcony. That balcony may not be small enough for you to take 2 feet. Take 1 foot in and take 1 foot out. That's all the space you have. You can still grow some food on that balcony to feed you and your family, and that can last. There's several options. You can stack. You can grow vertically. Tower
Vertically.
gardening. There's so many options. And I
Right.
mean, I'm getting into a lot of good, juicy stuff my next class to really more get my creative juices flowing when it comes to sharing with y'all how you can really grow in abundance.
Right.
Growing in abundance, and not just that, I forgot to mention making sure you're growing foods that are nutrient dense foods. Because if your body and your stomach is used to eating things on a regular basis, you're not necessarily eating, um, you know, nutritious foods, or maybe you are, but you're not eating as often now because of the times we're living in. You have to plan on growing nutrient dense foods. So when you are able to eat, then your body is getting the nutrients that it needs to be able to function properly.
And not only that, okay, so I think we've spoken about preparedness. A lot of this stuff can require some mathematics, right?
Yes,
You're going
ma'am.
to kind of do a little math to kind of figure it out. Like you said, Sister Portia, like, what's your family size? What
Right.
is reality of how much we want to grow. We don't want to undergrow. We don't want to overgrow because we don't want to waste food,
Right.
right? But storage might become an issue when we really get into the levels of something like famine or what have you,
Right.
or so you don't want to lose any of your vegetables as well. So there is some math involved, like, how much to grow, how much is grown from a certain plant or what
Right.
have you. Yeah, those are some things that you do have to consider.
And we get into all of that in my gardening basics class, but I will just say, like, it's not as hard as, it may seem a little complicated, or you got to use little math. But once you actually apply, like once you get that hands-on experience and you start to actually get those lessons from either, our lessons from failing, what we call failing, which is not failing, it's just learning a lesson, or from actually producing harvest and getting that satisfaction of growing your own food. Once you get that your hands dirty, then it'll all fall into place, because this is all within us anyway. This is our nature. This is who
Right,
we are anyway. This is how we survived, and this is how we live. So we're just getting back into our nature. That's all.
right,
We tapping
right.
right on back into our nature, who we already are.
That we did we lost that a little bit, but we definitely have to get back to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, ma'am. All of that is necessary. Growing nutrient-dense food, making sure that you're growing foods that have a long shelf life, making sure that you are understanding that you have to have proper storage, for your food.
Yeah,
Food, and if you want it to last is the maximum amount of time that it can last, then you want to have an area where it's cool, dark, and dry. The exact opposite of what your seeds need in order to germinate. So
right.
getting this knowledge and getting this information, which both of me, my sister Michelle and myself, we both provide to get you in a place where you feel comfortable, where you feel prepared enough and empowered enough to know that you can do this. This is a possibility. It may seem a little scary. It may seem out of your comfort zone, because it is out of our comfort zone. We've been living in excess. We've been living in comfortability. And not to say you can't get comfortable in this, but some of us is taking us out of our comfort zone. A lot of us do not like getting our hands dirty. We're going to have to go and get used to getting that hand dirty, okay? Getting that soil up under our fingernails.
Their gloves, there are ways around everything. You can get some.
Okay. Yeah,
Don't even use that one. You can do that as well. I know we're
exactly.
going to wrap up, and it's so much. And Sister Portia and I have really about trying to maybe do some more of these to break down, some of the terms that you've heard, and actually get into some other aspects, because one thing
Absolutely.
us, and it hasn't gone, over our heads, is that of famine. We hear a
Yes,
lot of talk about famine, and we definitely want to talk about that, because that takes a whole nother level of mindset to get
right.
prepared for. So what we're talking about now is, while everything is calm and you have the ability
Yes,
to condition yourself and to lend your mind to this mindset, go ahead and try it out. Spring is coming. Get
yes,
yourself and your gear together and just
yes.
try something simple. You know what I mean? And so you can see what the process is. So you can
Absolutely.
how nature works. So that when it's time for you to put it in place, you're not shocked and
Exactly.
you don't necessarily suffer.
And let me
Right?
tell you something, because I was watching a post. It might have been yesterday, and a lady was on there saying gardening
Era.
is expensive. Like, this is an expensive hobby. This is what she was saying. And yeah, if you get into like the technicality of greenhouses and all the equipment you need for raised beds and all that, it can get a little pricey. However, if you're just now starting out, you have not grown anything before, start at the Dollar Tree. Get you a hand shovel. Get you some gloves for it was $1.25 now. But let me tell you something. Dollar Tree has stepped up their game when it comes to the equipment. Now, I don't get my seeds from Dollar Tree. I'm not hating nobody who does, but I just personally don't do that.
Where did
But
those come from, sister?
What'd you
Where did
say?
calories come from? I see they had a bin. I'm like,
Look, and I
that-
see, look, there's a lot of people on social media that will fight for, they will defend Dollar Tree seeds. And I'm not mad at them. If they like it, I love it. But
heirloom, I might consider it. So
right, right. Well, look, when it comes down to it, and you can't find any more seeds anywhere else, I mean, nowhere else,
I don't
and
know.
and the internet is down, get them
I'm
seeds.
way cognizant of bioengineering and what's his name?
Monsanto, yes.
Monsanto.
Genetically modified. Yep.
Bunches of that in
Yes.
my preparedness mode to take any seed. And
Okay.
I would just say, listen.
Yes, exactly. So if you are starting out, you have no gardening tools, you have no gloves, you have no hand shovel, you need pots. I would suggest starting at Dollar Tree. It's affordable. You won't feel like it hits your pockets too hard, and you can start getting your, experimenting and really getting into the feels of what it feels like to be a gardener, right? So start
Right.
there. I get my stuff. I get a lot of my equipment, a lot of my tools from there as well. I do, spend a little money for some others just because I like a little bit more quality because I'm doing it on a regular. But if I need some things quickly, like some gloves,
Oh,
I'll go
absolutely.
straight to the Dollar Tree.
Oh,
And they have a great section full
how
of
many
stuff.
pairs I got from the Dollar Tree.
Okay, I am not above it. Okay, so yeah, like
I
Sister
want, I want to kind of move this to, I know we are getting ready to open up for questions, but one other thing, just in terms of preparedness, that
Okay,
if we ourselves in this situation, we will find ourselves. I think Sister Rachel Chanel said that we will
right,
find a situation.
right,
Um, so we need to take this time to do what's necessary. But there are some things that you can regrow you can regrow from kitchen scraps, right? Like
absolutely,
go to the
yes,
grocery store. I think you touched on it. And we just want to kind of give you a rundown on what those vegetables are so that if you can't get to the seeds or what have you, the seeds are right under your tent if you get certain foods. And you can go ahead, like me personally right now in my windowsill, I have celery. I make a lot of bean soup, and
yes,
so I just cut that celery up. I planted it, and they're thirsty too. They're very thirsty.
yes,
Um,
ma'am,
and I have basil. I think in my windowsill right now.
yes, ma'am,
So there.
absolutely.
What else would you say? Potatoes. Potatoes just grow just because.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. You can do
yeah.
potatoes. You can do I just regrew some bok choy a few weeks ago. You
I
can
saw,
yeah, you
yeah.
can regrow cilantro is a great herb to regrow. You can
Onion,
even
onion.
the green top, yeah, green onions. I have that right now on my windowsill. But
Yeah.
the tops the green tops of a lot of the vegetables, such as like your carrot tops, it may not regrow a carrot again, but you can
Yeah.
cut that top off where the green leaves are, put it in some water, and they'll continue growing green leaves. Same thing happens with like Swiss chard and beet
Yeah.
greens. I love sauteing beet greens.
I have some downstairs, and we'll be making that today. As a matter.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. So a lot of the green parts of your vegetables are edible, and you can regrow those.
And if I can add, they're
Yes, ma'am.
edible, and they give you much more nutrition or vitamins, actually sometimes than the actual root plant, the root vegetable.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
carrot tops, have six times more vitamin C
Oh,
in the
wow.
carrot top, actual carrot.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So
I didn't know
you're in
that.
a kind of situation, you want to get that carrot top if you can, because
Right.
it gives you potassium, it gives you magnesium, it gives you vitamin C. And you have to think about that as well, because that part of it is medicinal, right? And
Yes.
so you gotta make sure, when you're in a disaster kind of situation, you're not eating square meals
Right.
sometimes. So you
Right.
want to get out of it what you can get out of it. So vitamin C is actually and beet greens, but vitamin C is one of those.
Is a non-negotiable, and like that's what we mean when we say nutrient dense food. Those
Yeah.
foods that produce, that have the vitamins and the nutrients and minerals that your the body needs, especially in a time where, like you said, you're using up a lot of energy. You have adrenaline that's pumping because it's like, you might be a little scared or something, something may popped off or whatever, and you're a little nervous.
You'll
So your
be
adrenaline's
more.
rushing, your
Yeah.
immune system is on overload. You need your immune system to be top tier. You do not want to be sick when it's like survival mode, or a famine, or just in the food shortage time that we're in. You want to make sure that your health, your immune system is functioning to this optimal level, because you need that. You need your mind to be top tier. You need your body to be top tier, all of that. So this is why it's so important to make sure that you are growing or regrowing nutrient dense food to feed that mind and to feed that body.
And I think I want to add to that, as you just broke down, um, you also want to consider those that have high calories as well,
Right.
because you're in this kind of emergency situations, you're moving more, you're probably a lot more active.
Right.
So the average person takes 2,200 calories per day is
Right.
the average. So you want to try to get as close to that as you can
Right.
to make life in terms of survival. And so you might want to figure out in your configuration what vegetables add that level of calories. And we know off the top, even though we don't eat a lot of them, potatoes.
Exactly. And they have
That's,
a very good storage life. So potatoes
yeah.
are great when we're talking about growing with a purpose and food shortages. Absolutely.
Well, Sister Portia, I would say we have a few things I know that we need to kind of put on the shelf and have another episode about,
Yes. Yes.
because even in that we didn't really get into storing it. That's going to be crucial, your storage aspect in preparedness. Harvesting, we want to get into maybe even watering. When you get into certain levels of disaster, especially like drought and famine, your water is rationed. So we
Okay.
have to kind of consider what vegetables can survive that. Or someone even raised something about climate change in here. Right. So what are your hardy vegetables that can
Withstand.
grow even under, adverse conditions? So
Absolutely.
definitely we knew this going in, that we had a lot to unpack when you
Absolutely.
talk
Yes, ma'am.
about gardening and preparedness. So I will give you the stage to answer questions. Now I know what we want to do. And
Definitely, definitely. Like you said, we will be having some more lives, y'all, together,
we
because
already
there's so many things that we can touch on and delve into. We just don't have all the time in one day. So we will be coming back and having several more conversations like this in the near future. So please stay tapped in and tuned in so that you can be aware of when our lives will be taking place. So I'm just
correct.
kind of scrolling through the chat just to get the first few sets of questions, and then we will go to the question bubble. If you do have a question, please enter it into the question bubble in the bottom right of your screen. It should be if you're on your phone. And please make sure, thank you for coming onto the live and joining us in this wonderful conversation. And if you haven't already, please hit this drop down arrow to follow us. But the first question that I see is trying to make sure I don't skip over. Okay, so the first question is from Pumpkins. I'm not sure if they're still on, but it's what is the best or healthiest soil to use? What's the best or healthiest soil to use? First thing I will say, and as we're talking about survival, create your own soil.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
start there with composting, but that's going to take some months, but at least you can have that in the process. And in the meantime, while you are creating your compost pile or whatever, however you're composting, because you can do it in small containers as well, you need to get some organic soil. Make sure it's organic soil, because you do not want those chemicals and pesticides that have been sprayed on the soil to get into and for your plants to grow into it. You do not want that. That's harmful for your health. so many carcinogens and other things that are just not good for us to take in. And it's not good for the plants either, because a healthy plant, it equals a healthy person. Healthy soil equals a healthy plant equals a healthy person,
And I
right?
think after that, and I think you covered it, compost for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But when you're in like a survival situation, you're not going to run to get soil. But if you prepare first, I
right,
would say make sure you get the right kind of fertilizer as well. Like you can really break down fertilizer, you know, different ways that you can fertilize. But say you can't get the soil or what have you,
right.
uh, make sure you get a really good fertilizer, and then you can try to use the soil that's kind of within your reach. Well,
Right, and exactly, and you can really turn over that soil and transform it into nutrient dense soil, nutrient rich soil, so that your plants can grow. Because if your soil is no good, you're not gonna really grow anything in it. So
right.
that's the most important thing. The foundation for effective gardening is the condition and the health of your soil. So if you are growing in the ground, that's a whole nother thing. So if you're growing in the ground, then it might be a little more affordable, because you are using your native soil, and then you may can just add, get some bags of compost that may not cost that much, and just add it to your soil. However, if you are growing in containers or growing in a raised bed, that's a different story. One thing that I can say is get to know your local farmers. Get to know your local farmers. Get to know your local, for instance, I was very close to some black cowboys in Charlotte. And
Mm,
what do cows do? They poop all the time. And that horse manure is gold, okay? So if you get to know your local farmers and the people that are growing on a larger scale, and you can start getting relationships with them, then you can start really finding out that they may have manure or compost that they're already producing, and they may be able to either sell it to you or even give you some. So
yeah,
get to know the people in your local community. That's what we talked about earlier.
yeah.
The next question: where are heirlooms carried the most to purchase from?
What was?
So where are heirlooms? I think she was referring to seeds, and this
Oh,
is BC2U.
okay.
Where are they
Mm-hmm.
carried the most and purchased from? I would say first and foremost, Sister Melanated Organic Seeds. She sells heirloom seeds. M.I. Gardner. Okay, let me just put this in here if I can. M.I. Gardner is another good one. Baker's Creek. And these are all on Instagram that you can find them. I don't type really fast, so I might have to create another. I might have to create a post
Right.
and do it, because hold on, Baker's Creek. I want y'all to have visual. Y'all know my students who have had me, they already know I'm all about visual learning, and making sure that I tap into all learning styles. So some people just got to see Baker's Creek, M.I. Gardner. So these are just a few, and I can post some more later on. Those are the top three, I would say, that are excellent, high quality, organic heirloom. I've used them personally. I've used all except Baker's Creek, but I'm actually in the process of ordering some very soon. But yeah, though that's a good start for you. That's a good start
Yeah.
for your heirloom organic seeds. Let's see what we have. Okay, so make sure I don't skip over anyone. Okay, here we are. So it says, all right, that was it. What are some natural ways to remove insects from living on my crops, like my lettuce or strawberries, etc.?
Ooh,
First and foremost,
you take
before you start chemicals, because there are some organic chemicals out there that are natural. Just be proactive as far as, like, maybe you can get some netting. I got some very affordable netting on Amazon. It's like garden mesh. And if you put that garden mesh and really secure it where it's closed up and your crops are nicely secured, that is a really good option for you as far as pest management. So being proactive of just protecting your plants is one. But the most first and most important thing is producing a healthy plant, because just like we have immune systems, these plants also have immune systems. So if you have strong plants, they will naturally deter, they will naturally defend themselves against these pests. Okay? A lot of times these pests, just like the viruses and the bacteria and all these different illnesses out here, they hone in on vulnerability. So if you are weak or if your plant is weak, those pests or those viruses can sense that, and that's where they're going. That's where they're going to be headed to, because they know that you are not strong enough to fight them off. So focusing on healthy soil, growing you healthy plants, and then being proactive with garden mesh is the first step, I would say. And then if that still doesn't work, then there's also some natural pesticides such as like your neem oils that you can use and spray on that is natural for pest control.
And also, what is that called? Like your ornamental plants as well.
Yes, companion planting.
Yeah, that you can plant beside your plants that deters certain insects as well.
And your herbs do an excellent job at that.
Yes.
Your herbs do a great job with deterring pests away. Also, correct. Onions and garlic.
Correct.
Onions and garlic do an excellent job as well, because those pests cannot stand. Just think about it. Those herbs are very strong, but they're kind of pleasant to our noses. But think about how small those insects are. They cannot stand that. They cannot stand those smells. Right. So they are not going to come around your plants, because all they're smelling is either that herb or smelling that onion and garlic.
Or that lemony. They don't like the citronella or lemon balm.
Exactly.
You can do strategic for those as well. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And I personally, my backyard insects is war. It's war.
Mine too.
I use neem oil. But what started to really work for me, and I really don't have it in front of me, one of the things is diatomaceous clay.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of put the diatomaceous clay on it, and that was really helpful. That
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I've heard of that. I've also heard of it was diatomaceous clay. Someone else has said they use something, then the initials are BT. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it, but
and I have too. I should run downstairs and get it. I have that too, and that was excellent.
Absolutely.
That was huge.
And a lot of times, like I said, when you find those like local nurseries and smaller nurseries versus going to like those big name stores, you can find a lot of like local type products that you wouldn't normally find in your Walmarts or your Home Depots. Because I know I found it's like a insect soap. And a lot of these things you can make on your own. You can make a lot of like cayenne pepper and the vinegar type thing. You can make a lot of these things that you don't even have to spend money on. You can get it right from your kitchen, create your own concoction. I have a recipe for pest control
Dawn soap. Does it have Dawn soap in it?
I think it does have some dish detergent in it. But
I say this. I tried it, but my insects are something totally, y'all don't really understand my insects. They was like,
I had a gopher last summer, and let me tell you, like these pests out here are ghetto. They are so ghetto, and they're ready for war. That's the thing. Like they don't care nothing about no neem oil or nothing you spray. Like they just ready to eat. They understand the time that we living in. We need to be following suit with them. They understand, like they gonna find food for them and their family by any means necessary.
Yeah. That's very real. That is very real.
Absolutely. So the next question we had, so sister Mrs. BC, to you, get your children out there too. They need this life skill. Let me tell you something. This is an investment. This is an investment. This is an investment that we are involving ourselves in when it comes to not only learning this skill of growing food for ourselves, but also involving your children and making it a teachable moment at any given time. Because this is something that you need to be able to pass down. Generational health, generational type practices where they can teach their children.
That was as a community, that was our disconnect.
Right.
That's lost it. We went from grandma or great grandmother doing it, and then we let McDonald's and KFC kind of get in the middle of us, and now we have to get back to it and pass it on as a legacy to our children. Absolutely.
Absolutely. They have to. There's not even it's a non-negotiable. Like they have to get out there and they have to learn this skill. They have to learn what it feels like to be out in nature, and they get in tune because they're closer to nature than we are anyway.
Right.
They're in tune with their nature. So
I
if we surround them in the necessary environments and allow them to get their hands dirty, allow them to pull some tomatoes off of the plant, show them how to plant seeds. These are necessary skills that we have to teach them, right?
and let them even taste the labor of their own hands, right? Because
Right.
I don't know, for any of you novice gardeners or those who haven't tried it, if you taste the food that you grow in comparison to the food that they're giving you in the grocery store, you're going to have a different love and respect for gardening.
Let me tell you
Because
something.
I grew carrots, and I never knew carrots tasted like my carrots tasted.
Okay.
My carrots that I grew, I was just like, wait a minute.
Let
Is
me
this
tell
a
you
carrot?
something.
Yeah,
Okay. First of all,
yeah,
you're going to have a love and it's going to become an addiction because you'll be like, oh my God, this tastes so good. I got to keep growing more. Like, this tastes so good. But then it's like a bipolar type situation because then you're going to be upset because you're going to be like, what have I been eating all this time? What have I been getting from the store? Because that has not been real food compared to what I'm eating now. Let me give you two examples. When I grew my first set of radishes years ago, I did not realize that radishes were spicy because
yeah,
they are so like dull and boring in the store. They have no flavor. But when I
yeah.
grew my own, I thought something was wrong. I'm like, why is this like spicy? And it's like I can taste what it's supposed to taste like. It was like no other. But when you really start tasting real food, the experience is amazing. Another thing that I've grown in the past and I'm growing now is asparagus. When I tasted my first harvest of asparagus, oh my gosh. And by the way, if I
Wow.
may say, let me just go ahead and put this tidbit in here. As you are growing with a purpose and growing on purpose with survival in your mindset, make sure you include perennials. Asparagus is a perennial, which means that it keeps coming back every year. Once you plant those roots in the ground, they will come back at the
That's
same
very
time every single year. And that's like a 15 to 20-year investment. Once you plant it, you ain't got to do nothing else to it.
that's very
So
true.
when I tasted my first set of asparagus from my backyard, I was like, I know you lying. Like the flavor, the sweetness,
Yeah.
how long this asparagus was. You get like the little stubs from the store. Oh no. When you grow your own, honey, it was as long as my arm. I have a picture of it on my page. The asparagus
Well,
is amazing and it's so easy to do.
okay.
And like I said, it keeps coming back, so it's a great investment. It doesn't cost much to get the roots. You can get the bare roots in the bag. And I'm telling you, once y'all start tasting the flavor from real food, you are going to like you. It's a different level of energy, a different frequency that you get on because
Right.
you're feeding your cells.
Right.
This is live food that you are cutting straight from your backyard or your balcony, and you are putting it right in your mouth as soon as
Right.
it gets harvested. You can't get no better than that.
It's electric food. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So let me go into the question bubble so that we can wrap it up. These have been some great questions. Thank y'all so much for tapping in with us. VSR1225 asks, can you all create a beginner's list for the must-haves? Absolutely. I will create a beginner's list.
A beginner's list of what, vegetables?
I think he's asking like for the must-haves for starting out growing food. Like what do you need to start out? What equipment you may need?
Oh,
What kind of pots you may need or soil? Things like that.
that's a class.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do offer the class. Okay, coming up,
You do.
gardening
That's
basis class. um, Mrs.
join me.
DC.
Whoever asked that question, join me when Sister Portia has a class. Like that's definitely
Yeah,
that's
we look we my old students that took my classes in the past, they will tell you if they're on this live, they will tell you I try to be as thorough as possible because I try to put myself in the mindset of someone who has absolutely never grown anything before. What do they need to know? What do I need to get them equipped to feel comfortable with growing their own food? So you're gonna be taken care of. You ain't
right.
got to worry about any of that. I'm gonna give you all the materials that you need and all of that. Mrs. BC2U asks, how do you grow plants that don't produce seeds? How do you grow plants that don't produce seeds?
Do you want to?
Right.
Do you grow plants without seeds?
Right.
Bioengineering. Nature. That's not nature. That's
Right.
not the order of things.
Right.
That has been done in a lab and grafted, or what's the other word they use now? Uh, it's bioengineered.
Right. Genetically modified, basically.
Genetically modified. That's what I was looking for. Because they change.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you, sis, if you can, if you're still on here, and if you can include in the chat if this is something you're desiring to do, or are you asking a question of how do
Right.
you grow it?
Right.
All right. So the next question we have is, what's the best way to preserve your seeds long term? Great question, Higher Vibration 7.
Excellent question.
Yes. So what you want to think about is, and I go over this in my course. So when you want to germinate a seed, you need moisture, sunlight, heat, things like that, and food, like your soil. When you're trying to save a seed and store it, you want the exact opposite. So you want dark, you don't want light, you want dark, you want cool, and you want dry. All right. And it's very important that you keep them in those conditions, because that can really be the deciding factor of the shelf life of your seeds. Because there is an expiration date on, there can be an expiration date on seeds, but determining and depending on how well you store them can determine how long they can last. So I hope that answers your question.
And I will be, I'm changing over my website. I'm in the midst of doing that. And I actually am in talks with a distributor to start selling some of the survival seeds as well. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
What I do is, I'm going back to the Dollar Tree. I get, like, they have the little clear, it's like miniature clear containers that have a lid that snaps on. I get several of those, and I just put my seeds in those containers. I've even seen people that use baseball card books, or even coupons, like the coupons that you use, the books that you use for you saving your coupons. You can use that. Also, I've seen people that use pencil boxes, like from the school, the students use pencil boxes. You can get that at the Dollar Tree too, and they save their seeds, and then they can categorize it based off, because it's so cheap. You can get a few, like 5, 6, or 7, and categorize it based off of that particular type of food. So your brassicas can be in one, your green leaf vegetables can be in another, your tomato, you know what I'm saying? So there's several options. I've seen people that store them in mason jars. Just making sure whatever is the actual the storage thing, that whatever contraption you're using or container you're using, just make sure that you are putting it and keeping it in a cool, dark, dry area.
Correct.
Away from sunlight and all of that. Okay. Next question is, I would like to know the best soil to use in raised beds. Thank you for that question. So they actually have organic raised bed soil. However, bagged soil can become very expensive. I just went to the store the other day and got some organic soil, and I think it was like maybe $8 for a bag. But you can create your own soil. And so depending on how big your raised bed will determine if you want to create your own soil. If you have, just a small 4x4 or 2x4 raised bed, then you can create your own soil using compost, using leaves, using I've seen people use vermiculite to mix it in, that retains moisture, topsoil mixed in with it, vermicomposting, which is that worm compost. So you can actually get those that are a lot cheaper than the organic bagged soil, and just make your own mix. Now, if you have a nice size raised bed, then I would suggest you can make your own if you would like, but also, like for instance, I have a local nursery. They actually charge you just $40 for a truckload. Like, you can get a pickup truck, a truckload of their compost, and the compost is already mixed with topsoil because you can't just use pure compost, it'll be too rich. But they only charge $40. Just imagine if you're paying $8 for one bag of organic soil, that adds up. You can only get 5 bags, and that may not fill up your whole raised bed. So if you go do your homework and do your research on your area and find out your local nurseries or local farmers, they can really give you a good deal, because it's almost like going and buying wholesale, just as you would like at Sam's or Costco's or BJ's. You always save more money when you buy in bulk.
Okay.
So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so it looks like that's all the questions that we have. Thank y'all for those of you who have asked these wonderful questions.
Excellent, excellent.
So yeah, so if you have any other questions, just include it in the bubble box or the question bubble at the bottom, and make sure you're following us. Just hit that drop down arrow to follow us. And like I said before, we will definitely be having more conversations surrounding gardening and survival and preparedness, because we are living in these times. We're living in these times. So there's no way around it. We have to, if we don't feel like it, we have to make ourselves get into the mindset of, what can I do so that I can survive? What can I do so that I can eat? What can I do so that I may be prepared for whatever takes place around us, right?
Yeah.
Whatever takes place, we're going to be ready and prepared.
And I would add to that, like you just said, the time is now. The time is now. Condition yourself. This moment right here, this little period of respite that we have right now.
Right.
Push this class. Listen, visit me on my IG, Ready or Not Prepares. My website right now is www.readyornotprepares.com, and we're just trying to get you into the mentality. We want you to condition yourself, put yourself in the mindset, try it out, so you know what it takes. You know what I mean? You can start as simple as on your windowsill, you heard me say. You can start with the vegetables that you have in the grocery store, you heard us say.
Right.
Go full scale, outside or what have you. Try it out so you'll know in terms of strategy beforehand what is needed. I cannot say that enough.
Yes.
Because when I started gardening, I thought it was something that I saw on TV and it was cute and what have you. I mean, I've seen my grandmother do it, so I had some concept, but to actually do it myself and to know what it takes, and just to find out how nature really, really evolves and how it grows its vegetables and what's needed. You can't have enough time to do that if you're in dire straits.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So again,
absolutely,
planning and strategy is preparedness. And I leave you. My name is Michelle. Ready or Not Prepares. My tagline to everyone is always, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to prepare you.
Absolutely. And I'm Sister Portia. Thank you so much with Grow Flow 19. And my slogan is, what you growing today? Because we need to be growing food, but you got to also be growing that mind. Because if your mind ain't right, you're not going to be growing anything in the physical realm. So when I ask you that question, what are you growing today? I need to know that you're growing something. Either you reading a book, you reading something from the internet. We are growing, constantly evolving on a daily basis.
A mindset. Thank you. Thank you, Sister. Thank
you so much. I appreciate this conversation. Thank you so much, Sister Michelle.
We'll be back soon.
All right. Peace, y'all.
Peace.